Welcome to the Mom and Around podcast. If you're new here, I'm your host, Liz Mercedes. This is a podcast by moms. That's me. For moms. That's you. Here with me today, I have Riley and Caroline's mom, Victoria. Hi, Victoria. How are you?
Hi.
Do people call you Victoria or Vicky?
Never Vicky. Either Victoria or all of my close friends, AJ. They call me Vic.
Vic. Okay. Cool. My friend has a cousin, and we called her Vicky my whole life. So
that was the one thing my mom hated. If anyone tried to call me Vicky, she was like, absolutely not.
Really? My mom hates that I have any nickname whatsoever. And I'm like, too bad, I love Liz. And she's like, that's not what I named you. And I'm like, no, but that's what I named myself.
I pretty much went by Victoria until about high school. That's when my friends and I let them started calling me Vic, and it was like my choice. But if anybody else tried to like shorten it, my mom was like, no, it's Victoria.
Yeah.
No.
I love that.
We don't do nicknames either, like kind of for that reason.
Yeah.
She's
even
like,
now.
If I wanted people to call you Tori, I would have named you Tori.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's
okay, Mom.
I know, right? That's a good point. That's funny.
Like AJ goes by AJ.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally just 2 letters. So
what's his actual name?
Like the opposite. Andrew.
Okay. And then that's all I know him as is AJ.
Yeah. So, but like,
does anybody call?
If I talk about him to people, I'll say AJ. But if I'm talking to him, I'll call him Andrew.
Okay.
But
I was just gonna ask if anyone called him Andrew. So yeah.
No, like his mom, everybody growing up, it was AJ.
Really?
And I can't even remember the last time I actually called him by his name. So if we use names, it's like very serious.
Oh, really? It's like you're in trouble kind of thing.
Or it's like it's an important situation. So if he doesn't call me like babe,
you're like, something's wrong, someone's dying.
Yeah. Breaking news. The kids will even if he doesn't answer, if they're like, hey dad, and he doesn't answer, Riley will say, hey babe.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Yeah. I love that.
We've always had 2-story houses, so it's like we have to find out where the other person is. So they'll just, hey babe. He doesn't answer.
That's so good.
So we had names.
Yeah. So you have Riley and Caroline. How old are they?
Caroline is 7 and Riley is 3.
They're just the sweetest.
3. She's like exactly 3.5. So
okay, they're just the sweetest.
Counting like the months.
Yeah, but I do feel like the leap from like 3 to 4 is big. So like 3.5, there's a big difference. Yeah. There. And how old were you when you had them?
Let's see. When Caroline was born, I was 23.
Okay.
And she was born in September, and then January.
Oh, she's a September baby too?
She is, yeah.
What day?
September 23rd.
Okay.
So, and then I turned 24 in January. So I was like right on the edge. But still, I didn't think I was very young, I guess. I wasn't like 19 or anything.
Yeah.
But I figured out that's still kind of young.
Still young, definitely, for sure.
So maybe in the military community, like other people were starting much younger.
Definitely.
Out in the real world, I was like, oh, I'm old. And I wasn't.
That's so funny.
Very much figuring everything out.
How long were you guys married before you had her?
Let's see. Almost 2 years.
Okay.
So, yeah, she was born in September, and then December was our 2-year anniversary.
Did you guys meet in high school, or did you meet after high school?
We did, yeah. We went to high school together. And,
that's cute. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
I love to tell this story. AJ has a different version, obviously. I went to a really small high school. It was a really small town, and his family moved to where I was from over the summer before we started ninth grade. So first day of ninth grade, everyone knows everybody already. We've gone to like preschool up until now with each other. So if you're new, everybody can tell. And let's see, we were in PE, and depending on who you are, you didn't really have to do anything in PE. So, and it's the first day of school. So we're sitting on the bleachers, didn't really do anything that day. And he comes up to talk to me. And obviously I'm like, who are you again? Like, I don't think I know you. And he just tried to start like chatting me up. And he told me he could help me with my Spanish homework. And I was like, oh, if that's the case, please have a seat. And then I figured out he doesn't know any Spanish.
Oh my gosh, stop.
He's like half Puerto Rican. And already I knew more Spanish than he did. So then I was like, okay, well, see you later. And I had a boyfriend at the time. And every day he would just try to talk to me. So finally I told my boyfriend, I was like, this new kid, not leaving me alone. And AJ's on the football team. So at football practice, they kind of, give him a little extra roughing up or whatever. AJ will say it was no big deal. But my boyfriend would say, like, we gave him a good roughing. I guess it depends who you talk to.
Yeah.
And it took maybe like a year or two, and we started hanging out with the same friend group. So we were really good friends for a while. And then senior year, we decided we wanted to try dating.
Nice. And the rest is history.
And the rest is history. Yeah.
So he's in the military. You talked about that a little bit. So when did you kind of like, how did that work out?
Well, when we started dating, he had already started his process. He had talked to his recruiter and basically already signed his contract and stuff. So he knew after graduation that summer he was leaving for boot camp. So that was maybe one of the reasons. Like, I was a little hesitant.
Totally.
You're about to leave. That's, I've obviously never done anything like this before. I don't know. It seems really heavy for me. So, but anyways, we gave it a try. Writing letters through basic training, and luckily he got stationed really, really close.
Okay.
His first station was only about 4 hours, like a 4-hour drive from where we were from. So it was really easy for like long weekends or holiday breaks and stuff that, we could still visit each other and still have a little bit of in-person connection.
Totally.
So I think we got really lucky in that aspect.
Definitely.
So if he was somewhere where I never saw him, I'm not sure how that would have worked out. But
yeah, totally. Yeah.
it was.
So then you guys got married how long into your relationship?
Let's see. I stayed back where we were from, and that's where I went to college. So I went all the way through. I wanted to graduate before we got married. My parents, I shouldn't take all the credit. My parents wanted me to graduate and kind of get that under my belt. So about 4.5 years.
Okay. Yeah, that's a long time, especially at that age, I feel like.
Yeah. It seemed like a long time. Like,
yeah.
By the time we actually got married, I was like, oh my, thank God. I've been waiting for this for so long.
Yeah, totally.
Looking back, I'm glad we waited. Like,
yeah.
And as a parent now, like, even though my oldest is only 7, I'm like, yeah, I probably wouldn't have let her go off and get married to her high school boyfriend before the age of 21. I mean, we were 21 when we got married, almost 22.
Wow.
So that's still really young.
That's still really young. I mean, it's like adult, right? But it's still really young.
Right. We felt like adults for sure. But
totally.
It was interesting. So, and then we didn't get to live together until we got married.
Oh, really?
Yeah. well, because we lived in different states, basically. But the way the military is, if you're single, they were living in barracks, kind of like dorms.
Right.
And you didn't qualify to move out of the barracks until you were married or of like a certain rank.
Okay.
I think you had to be now, I think you have to be like an E6. You have to be like a staff sergeant. And that's what AJ is now. So,
wow.
To move out if you're single. So, most people, that's why a lot of military couples, they get married young because.
Okay, I didn't realize that. Okay, so it's so that they can move out of the barracks.
Yeah, so they can move out and live with their, whatever wife, girlfriend. So if your girlfriend is from back home and she doesn't live like in town,
yeah,
where you're stationed, like you don't get to live together.
Wow, interesting.
So, yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about being a military wife?
Sure.
What was that? I mean, I'm sure my listeners will be interested in that because I feel like we haven't had someone on. It's so common, I feel like, where we are and like who we interact with, but I don't, especially because a lot of my listeners are obviously like people from New Jersey. So like we don't have like a station like near us.
All the time that like Nick was never in the military.
Never, I know, because he like interacts like with
everybody. Yeah, everybody from the gym. Everyone has a military background.
Totally, yeah.
So, I asked AJ one time. I was like, how long was Nick in? And he said, oh, he was never in. Like, oh, that's cool. He like fits so well like into the group. Like you just assume.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a ride. I don't even know like where to start, I guess, if you don't really have a lot of like background knowledge. So like I said, he went in right after high school.
Yep.
And that was kind of always his thing, his dream. Like one of the first times he ever tried to talk to me, he was like, yeah, and I'm going to join the army. And I was like,
really?
Okay, great. Like, I don't know you. Thanks for telling me. And here we are. Let's see. His first station was in Georgia, right outside Savannah. So 4 hours where we were from. And so right after we got married, I moved up to Georgia with him. And we were there for a while. And because he had already been there, I kind of knew some of his friends already. I'd come up to visit. I knew those people. And it's such I would say a tight community within a community. Like not everybody is always like super nice and welcoming, but if you've got a little group of friends, like those are your friends. And they're always calling each other, can you help me with this? Or I'm having to get together, for no reason. Like everybody just come over and eat. And I guess it kind of gets that way when no one's around their families.
Totally.
You kind of have to create your own little family.
Which is how I feel like in Austin, the Austin culture is. Because there's so many transplants that I feel like it's the same kind of vibe, right? Where like no one's real, like there's a couple people who are around their families, but for the most part, we're not around our families. And so everyone's kind of like that, where it's just like, come on over, like, yeah.
So
totally.
So it was fun. And after that, we lived in Colorado, Colorado Springs. And I was really nervous. That was like that's probably the first time I felt like we were leaving home. Like it wasn't easy to just go home, for a long weekend, go home for Thanksgiving, go home for Christmas.
How long into your marriage was this, and did you have kids yet?
I was pregnant with Caroline.
Oh, wow.
I was like newly pregnant with Caroline. So maybe, less than 2 years.
Wow. So you're going into the situation like knowing you're pregnant, knowing you're about to have your first, but
we're moving.
You're not going to be around.
Country. Yeah.
Wow. And then do you know like how long you're going to be there or not really?
You know, about ish.
Okay.
It's usually 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
And so I guess I should have seen that coming. He had been in Georgia for about four-ish, maybe 4.5 years by the time we moved. But he was there so long without me that I guess I wasn't there yet. It didn't count.
Right.
So, like, maybe we knew it was coming, but we just didn't know when we would have to move. And we lived in Colorado for maybe almost 5 years.
Okay.
So that was another like long, and I think COVID delayed a lot of people. So that might have kept us there an extra year. But both the kids were born in Colorado, and we really loved it.
I was going to say, would you move back ever?
I got used to the snow. It wasn't bad. They have a hot summer.
Is that like a place that you could see yourself like living in again?
We almost had to go back. And I wouldn't have minded. There was so much to do, especially if you like being outdoors. For the kids, we had like the perfect little zoo, and we had annual passes to the zoo, and
nice.
We had, I made some of the best friends in Colorado. I would go back.
Why do you think you made friends like easily there and like so close knit?
I think it's definitely knowing that you're in the military community, making friends with, if you live on the installation, all your neighbors are in the military.
Okay.
And some of the guys that AJ worked with, obviously their wives, we would interact in like a scheduled type settings, like unit events and stuff. And then when you meet there, then you kind of take it outside. If you connect with somebody,
totally,
there's a lot of opportunities for like casual interaction. So I met one of my best friends at a workout mom group.
Oh, that's cool.
And it was for moms, and you could bring your kids because we worked out in the park. So when Caroline was maybe 5-ish months old, it was still snowing. So we started inside the community center. But I found it like on Facebook or something, and I was like, I need to get out of the house.
Yeah, I'm there right now.
Even if I'm not really into working out that much, I need to go somewhere.
Totally. I'm there. That's where I am.
I took her and I went to the community center, and there was maybe like 20 other moms. And
wow.
If your kid was just like sitting age, there was like a little row of babies sitting on their blankets and some bigger kids that were like, playing with a few things. So I just plopped her down on her little blanket, and it was kind of like I don't know if I would call it Zumba, because like sometimes we had music, but it was like the HIIT interval training, like with music or something. And I probably didn't like give it my all. Obviously, I had a baby like 5 months ago.
Yeah.
I was never really like a gym kind of girly. But I kept coming back twice a week because it was something to do.
Yeah.
And AJ was gone at this point too. He had deployed, I guess. So I was like, I'm losing my mind.
Wow. So you were by yourself with a 5-month-old. Oh my God. I don't know why. Like, obviously that's a thing that like military wives go through, but it doesn't like connect in my brain. So
even for me, it was like
by yourself in Colorado, no family.
Yeah.
You and the baby, first time mom, 23, 24.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was 24. It was like the day before my birthday that they left. So it was like, happy birthday. Here's your baby.
Wow.
See you in 9 months.
That's crazy. And then like when there's something like that like happens where like you have a new baby and your husband's like deploying, like did you think about like going home and like staying with your parents? Because I feel like that's what I would do.
I maybe thought about it for a minute. A lot of people do that.
Okay.
But the thought of like packing up all of my stuff for 9 months that me and a baby would need.
It's true.
I was like, no, thank you. That gave me so much anxiety. I was like, what do we do about our apartment? We lived on the installation.
Yes.
So I was like, do I need to tell somebody? Oh, and I had a dog.
Oh, okay.
I was like,
That
me and the baby and the dog, do we drive to Florida? Do we fly to Florida? And then I was like, what do I do with the apartment? Do I need to tell somebody that I'm not going to be here?
Right.
So then I'm like, I don't have to pay the rent. But then when the 9 months is up and he's coming home, what if they don't have another opening?
Right. Right. Yeah.
Like, where do we live then? And I was like, is it really worth, all of that?
No.
But then by the time I get all this figured out and I get down there, then I have to turn around and come back. I was like, I'll be okay. But I did go and visit. I flew to Florida twice in that 9 months, and my parents came up and visited me one time.
Okay.
And the time that they came up, I maybe got like food poisoning or something. I was so sick. And I was like on the couch, and I was either sleeping on the couch or in the bathroom.
Oh no.
Like throwing my guts up. So I was like, thanks for being here.
Yeah. For
Because
real.
what was I gonna do? And
yeah.
She was maybe like 6 months old. So she was hungry and they would bring her over to me, and I would lay her down on the couch and feed her, and then somebody else would take her away.
Yeah.
And I just basically was like a milk machine vegetable.
Oh my gosh.
For like 24 hours. It was crazy.
Thank God they were there though.
Right. I was like, if they weren't here, like what was I gonna do? I just have to power through it.
Totally. So, I mean, you find that energy, right, as a mom, like it just comes out of left field. You're like, well, I didn't even know this existed.
So
yeah.
But
I give you so much credit for doing that by yourself though. My mom stayed here for 2 months. Nick had just started at Cheap Dog, so he like had like no time off. And I think he went back, like we had her on like a Wednesday or a Thursday, and I think he went back to work on Monday. And so my mom was literally here for 2 months, just like helping me out, and I don't think I would have been able to do it without her. So I give you so much credit, because I think I would have lost my mind.
She came for about 2.5 weeks.
Okay.
When Caroline was born, and AJ only got, I say only, but he got 10 days off work, which I think they were supposed to have a little bit more, but they were getting ready for this, assignment, this deployment. So after 10 days, they were like, we need you to come back. And they counted, I think, the 2 days that I was in the hospital. So maybe 8 work days.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, what were we going to say? Sorry.
So I think he was supposed to have a couple more days, but they were like, actually, we really need you.
That's
and I was
tough.
like, do you really need him? There's so many of you.
Right. And he just had his first baby. Like,
yeah. So, but it was nice that he had those days off, and then he went back to work. And so then my mom was probably here for another week and a half after he went back to work. So she bought a one-way ticket, and finally she was like, I think you guys got this figured out. Like, I think you're doing okay. And I was like, oh, no, I don't.
Yeah.
I just stay for maybe like a little bit more time. And she was like, I love you, but you're doing so great. And like, I'm sort of just an extra person in the house at this point. And I was like, I really don't mind. I don't care at all. You're fine. She's like, I think we need to go.
Yeah, totally. My mom did the same thing. She bought a one-way ticket, and then I had really bad postpartum anxiety. So we went to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician was like, "Well, after 2 months, she can have a fever, and like you don't have to go straight to the ER." And my mom's like, "All right, I'll leave after 2 months. Like, is that okay?" And then like literally, like 2 months, she was like, "I'm done. I'm going back."
She's probably like, I need to go back to my own quiet house.
Mhm. Yeah. And
That's
we live
funny.
like in New Jersey, like right outside New York City. So there's like hustle and bustle, and here obviously we do not have the hustle and bustle. So she was like going nuts here, like in like the country. Like she was like, I can't
I
do
can't hear the traffic sounds.
it. She was dying. So anyway, so you don't live on base now. So why did you decide to not live on base this time?
Well, in Austin, I guess there isn't a military
Oh,
base. I think they have a National Guard somewhere around here, but people don't live there.
okay.
Um, he is on a recruiting assignment,
Okay.
so that's not his regular job. He does
Oh,
field artillery, and that would be like not tanks, but sort of. I'm trying to explain it.
I
Um,
mean,
it's like if somebody in the front, they're like calling for support, I guess. Not, I guess it's air support because they come out of the air, but it's not being fired out of an airplane or anything like
right.
that. They have like huge guns. It looks like a tank, but no one's inside. Well, there's people inside of it. I don't. I'm explaining this so terribly.
You're
Um,
totally fine.
they, they get the coordinates where they need to send the round, and he has to like computer put it all in, and
Interesting.
so that like the gun barrel is at the right angle and
Uh-huh.
they're shooting the right like charges and stuff for that
Hmm.
round to make it go where it needs to land. So he does more of the computer input of the data, and then
Uh-huh.
they tell the gun where to point. No, people listening can't see me, but I'm like waving my arms around. Um, so they do that, and then it shoots, you know, miles ahead of them or whatever.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Um, so that's what he normally does,
Okay.
and they pick people every now and then. They kind of volunteer them, you're gonna go be a recruiter for 3 years.
Got
Um,
it.
so we're living like amongst the civilians right
And
now.
yes. Yeah.
There's no installation, there's no base, there's no like
Got
military
it.
community. So here it was like really kind of a shock that like our neighbors were so different from us, and
Right.
um,
Yeah, you don't have like that community that you said like that was so
yeah. Well, there's like
beneficial.
the 5 or 6 guys in his office. Like in his office
Mhm.
is in like a strip mall.
Wow.
Um, it's so funny. It's like next to an arcade.
Wow.
Um, going to see AJ at work is like so different now. Um,
Yeah.
and so like there's really no community here. So when he
Right.
found the gym, like finding the gym was like an oasis for him. He was
Yeah.
like, this is the coolest thing I know. Like I know the 5 guys in my office and they're cool. But it's like not enough to choose from, like for your
Hmm.
friends. It's
Yeah,
not enough.
totally.
So,
Yeah.
and like the other offices, like the other people in your company, usually in your company, you like all work in the same building. But this company, it's so spread out all over Austin. There's different offices, and all the offices have like 5 or 6 guys. So everybody's so spread out. Um, and like we bought our house on FaceTime. So like we didn't really know a lot
Wow.
about the area.
Yeah.
Um, so it's been so different.
Yeah,
But kind of
totally.
fun. Like for him, when work is over, he comes home and there's no military around him. So it's kind of like a break. But he's kind of ready to get back and do his normal job.
What he normally does. Totally. How long have you guys been here?
Just about 3 years.
Okay. And you're coming to the end of like the...
Mm-hmm.
Do you know where you're going next?
We do. They let him know last week.
Oh, new.
We are headed to Seattle, Washington.
Oh, interesting. So, that'll be different.
The day he told me that, it was so rainy and gloomy here. I don't know why he told me that, and I was depressed. I was like, I can't live like this day all the time.
No, but the Pacific Northwest is so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
That's what one of my friends told me. I have all these friends, but they're just my Facebook friends, other, military spouses.
Yeah.
So I messaged her and I was like, I'm freaking out. Please tell me it's not that bad. And she was like, no, it's gorgeous. We have all 4 seasons. It's not like the movies. And there's so much to do. Like her and her family, they just spent a weekend in a cabin in Mount Denali. So I was like, or not Denali, Mount Rainier.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I think I can do that.
Totally. Yeah. No, it's
it'll be a lot like Colorado. There'll be mountains and snow and hiking and sightseeing and stuff. And it'll be warm in the summer. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
And AJ
more mild than Texas. Because in Texas, you cannot go outside in the summer.
Oh my gosh. We had to buy like 4 or 5 different, like those pop-up canopies that you can get like Walmart, just so we could sit on our back porch. The sun is like beating down and we couldn't go outside. Me and the kids could not play in the yard without shade. And then it would get super windy and then our canopy would be gone and fly away. So we probably spent like, I'd say maybe it's like $600 on just buying one after another of those Walmart canopies. So we could just even walk out our back door without melting.
That's so funny. Do you think you'll live on base in Seattle?
Absolutely. We've already looked at like the housing and stuff, and buying a house there is just wild.
Yeah.
Like not possible. So we're like, I think we're going to live on post this time and not have to worry about it because there's no way we could buy again. And people that did buy, when they rent their house out, they have to cover their mortgage. So rent is insane.
Totally.
So we're like, we'll just live on post and not have to worry about it. And the other day when it got so cold here, some of our kitchen tiles cracked.
What?
Like, AJ was freaking out. He thought our water line froze. But I guess it just got so cold, and it's like over by our dog water bowl. So if she like maybe got some water out, splashed her water around, and it got like in the grout, and when it froze, it like expanded. So
oh my gosh, I've never seen that happen.
Us either. And we're like, what is happening?
That's crazy.
And I think the guy that sold us this house, I think he retiled the kitchen himself.
Oh, okay.
So maybe that had something to do with it.
Yeah, so it wasn't done perfectly.
So the tiles cracked, and we're like, oh my God, now we have to like fix this. Now, next week, Home Depot is coming to retile our entire kitchen. And AJ was like, if we live on base, we would just call maintenance.
It's true.
This wouldn't be our problem.
True.
So we're like, let's do that again.
Yeah, okay. I totally feel that. We owned 2 houses in New Jersey, and then when we moved here, we rented because we just didn't know what area we wanted to be in. And I'm like, I just love being able to just call maintenance. Like if something goes wrong, like not my problem.
I remember we lived on post in Georgia, and then we lived on post for about a year in Colorado.
Okay.
before we bought the house there.
Oh, you bought a house in Colorado too.
Mm-hmm. So we bought that one in like 2018. And it was also just a really great time to buy a house, I guess. We got a good deal.
Yeah.
It was a little older, but it was perfect for us. We only had one kid at the time, but it was 4-bedroom. And in Colorado, a lot of people have basements. So it was a finished basement with an extra bedroom down there. So it was perfect for families coming to visit us. They got their whole bedroom, bathroom in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
That was our like mother-in-law area.
Yeah.
And 3 bedrooms upstairs. So I had a little office, and then until Riley was born, and then so she got her own room like immediately. And all the playroom, all the toys and stuff that was in the basement. So like I'd never even cleaned it up because I would just come upstairs.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have to look at it. Wouldn't have to worry about it.
That's so nice.
Guests really didn't have to see it.
Yeah.
So friends would come over, kids, basement, see ya.
That's so nice.
Really fun. And if we didn't have it to sell, we would not have been able to buy here in, what was that, 2021? Yeah.
So you guys moved here like kind of after the rush, because I feel like the rush was 2020.
Yeah. So Riley was born July 2020. And then maybe she was like 6-ish months old, and AJ had to go to recruiting school. So that was like 2 months. And while he was in recruiting school, I sold the house. So maybe it was 2020. No, it was 2021. She was maybe older than that then. So yeah, maybe like 7 to 10-ish months old. He had to go to recruiting school. And that was the first time I was alone with 2 kids.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And then I sold the house while he was gone. And then we moved here April of 2021.
Nice.
So it was an interesting time. And
yeah,
driving here, we're like staying in hotels on the way. And that's when like COVID policies and everything. So we were like making sure we stayed in hotels that were like cleaning.
Totally.
And we didn't do a lot of like activities and stuff at first with the kids when we got here. So we were like moving, unpacking, staying inside. It was a time.
Yeah, definitely.
It was interesting.
So you're about to be on your 4th move?
Let's see. I guess I won't count when I moved to Georgia by myself. So Georgia to Colorado. So this will be our 3rd move.
3rd move. How are you feeling about moving this time?
I know like the actual moving process isn't so bad. The Army will contract movers. So they'll come, pack all our stuff up for us. Somebody else will come and put it on the truck. So we don't have to worry too much about like that aspect of it. We're trying to decide what route to drive on the way up there. Because we're going to drive, and it's like a 30-hour drive. So it's going to take at least like 6 days, I think. Because the Army, I think they've decided like how long per day is like safe to drive.
Okay.
Probably like 6 or 8 hours. So they'll give us like an allowance to stay in a hotel for like that many nights.
Nice.
So I think it's like 6 days either way. We might stop. We're going to take some extra time, I think. Stop in some cool places and do some activities. Like, see some stuff that like we would never see otherwise.
Totally.
So I think that's part of the fun of it.
Yeah.
Like we would never go to Seattle on vacation.
Right.
So it's going to be really cool to see, stuff up there, the national parks.
Yeah.
AJ knows that I'm kind of obsessed with killer whales.
Uh-huh.
So he's like, that's where they do like the orca tours. You can like get on a ferry or not whenever and go like whale watching.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, we're doing that for sure. Like, it might be something we say we're doing for the kids, but we're definitely going to go see some orcas.
Totally.
And like my friend told me they went camping in like Mount Rainier, and I know like the Olympic National Park is up there. So
Yeah.
I've already ordered us the national park passes. I'm ready to go.
That's gonna be great. I loved we did Seattle when I was in high school. We did like the whole West Coast. My parents, we started Seattle and kind of worked our way down. But that was like one of my favorite vacations. Like just like because it's like so different and it's not somewhere that you would be like, oh, this is definitely where I want to go or like, but when you're there, it's like, wow. I noticed, like I realized, especially with me and Nick, like when our expectations are not like totally high for a place, which usually is just so amazing. Like, we did a cross country like road trip when I think we were engaged, maybe not. And there were stops that we were like so excited about, like the Grand Canyon and whatnot. And then there were like stops that I was like, just like one off, like the Badlands in South Dakota. And like those stops were like the best stops. Like we were like, oh my gosh, these are so amazing. So yeah, I feel like you're really going to like it.
Yeah. I have to like fixate on the positive things so that I don't get like sad that it's a 9-hour flight to Florida.
Yeah, that's a long flight.
I've already checked. And when I told my mom, I can always like hear my dad in the background. So I was telling my mom, and she was like, wow, I wonder how long the flight is. And my dad was like, you could get there on a Delta nonstop in 9 hours.
9 hours, because you're literally on the other side of the country.
Right.
Like it's not even like
the two corners.
Yeah.
So
wow.
But I was like, but AJ promised me I could go on a whale tour. So and I think the route that we're gonna take, it'll take us through like Albuquerque, Salt Lake City. What else?
You guys should stop in Moab on your way up.
I was gonna say, I was like, Moab is on the trail, but it would be before Salt Lake City. So
yeah.
Albuquerque, Moab, Salt Lake City. So I got like manic. I bought a camera.
Nice.
I went on Facebook Marketplace and bought like an older model, like really nice camera.
Uh-huh.
I was like, if we're gonna see all these places that are like pretty much once in a lifetime things that we're gonna do, I want really good photos.
Totally, yeah.
I want to be able to print these out and have them on, hang up pictures, and they're not like I took them with my iPhone. So I bought this camera. It was like $100, Facebook Marketplace. I've already watched YouTube videos so I can figure out, because it's like one of the ones, it has auto setting, but it's like one of those almost professional cameras, and you have to like put the settings right so you can get the light and all this stuff. So, and the guy that sold it to me, he's like, I don't remember if I left an SD card in there. If I did, like, don't worry about it. Just wipe it. And I went to open up the SD card, and there was pictures on it of like snowy mountains. And
wow.
They went whale watching.
What?
And I'm scrolling through, and I was like, that's a whale. Like, they're on a lake, and it was the humpback whales. So you could tell, like, they didn't have the back fin, and they were completely out of the water. But I'm like zooming in. I'm like, what a sign from the universe.
Yeah, for real. That's so funny.
Everything's gonna be okay. And
totally.
I'm gonna enjoy this move. So
I'm getting chills. Yes, totally.
I know. I was like, oh my God. I kept like going because you can only see one picture at a time. So I'm like, that's really pretty. And then I kept going like, oh, they're on a lake. And then you could see the spout of water that the whales are blowing out. And I was like, is it steam? Like, what's happening? And then you could see like a little whale body, little tail.
Wow.
So I was like, this is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's awesome.
I told AJ when he came home, I was like, the camera I bought, it had pictures on the SD card. And he was like, please don't tell me. I'm like, it's not gross, you weirdo. Like, I'm like, they were on a whale watching tour. Those are some of the last pictures on this camera. And he was like, cool.
Cool.
I'm like, this is a big deal, dude. This is so cool. Like, everything's gonna be okay. And he was like, he's like, I know it's gonna be okay. I'm like, listen, I'm freaking out, man.
Yeah.
I was sort of depressed. And just when he told me, it felt so gloomy and so gross outside. And I was like, I'm gonna have to get one of those lights, like the light therapy, so that people can get enough vitamin D. I was like, I'm not built for this, man. I'm from Florida. I'm gonna have to get back on my meds. He was like, you're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
I know I will be okay eventually, but it's the getting there that
totally
gives me anxiety.
Yeah. So in Seattle, like they always say like it's so like rainy and gloomy or whatever, but there's actually more rainy days in New Jersey than there are in Seattle.
Oh.
So like Nick used to always say that. I don't know why. Like why that was like something he said. Like I don't remember I don't know where that came from. But anyway, and so like when you started talking about it, like that's where my brain went. But I'm like, no, here we have so many more sunny days than Seattle ever does. Like it's always sunny here. And like even if it's like a rainy day, at some point in the day it's sunny, except for yesterday. Yesterday was gray all day.
I know. Oh, it was so crazy. My only like exposure to what Pacific Northwest weather was like the Twilight series in high school.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
so
totally.
Like, oh my god, it's gonna rain every day. And I told my friend that, and she was like, no, it's not like the movie.
Yeah. I feel like they specifically made it like gray, like in the after production too.
They absolutely did. She was like, no. She was like, also, Forks is all the way over on the coast. In Seattle, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
It's a real place, and they've turned it into like a tourist town.
Interesting.
So it's like a 3-hour drive from Seattle. I've already checked. I was like, I'm gonna go see Forks. And obviously my husband doesn't care at all. He's like, you can go. I'll stay home. I told my friend, I was like, is it like Twilight? And she's like, no. The sun comes out in the summertime. It's gorgeous. You're going to need shorts and tank tops. And you'll be okay.
Yeah.
She's from there. And her boyfriend is stationed where we're going to be at. But she lives there. She's gone there her whole life. So it's like, and you can take me to all the good places.
Definitely.
Not just the touristy places, but like the fun stuff that I need to see.
Yeah.
And the Army is like such a small world. My best friend that I made in Colorado, she has a friend, almost like a sister, and she came to visit my friend in Colorado, met somebody, got married, stayed in Colorado with them, and then they both got sent to Texas down here, to Fort Hood, or it's called Fort Cavazos now. And that's about 45 minutes from Austin.
Mm-hmm.
So they left Colorado, and we were still up there in Colorado, got our next station, and it was here in Austin. So we basically followed them here. And the friend, the second friend, her husband's from right outside Seattle, and he's getting out of the Army, and they're moving to Seattle. Maybe, I think she said like in April.
Okay.
So they'll go back to Seattle, and then we'll get there in maybe like August. So we're just like following them around the country.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
So that was another thing. I was like, okay, well, maybe right after we get there, then Justin and Lindsay will get there eventually. So I called her. I was like, so we're moving to Seattle. And she was like, oh my God, when? I'm leaving in a couple days to go get us set up and get a job and look for a house.
Wow.
I'm like, I thought you had so much longer. I thought we were going to beat you there. And she was like, no, you're following me around again.
That's so funny.
So I was like, all right, I'll have Lindsay. Everything is like falling into place. I'm slowly, everything's going to be okay.
Everything's going to be okay for sure. Yeah, totally.
But,
so is AJ like, is he going to be in, like, is he going to stay in the military like long term, or does he have like an end date? Like, how does that work?
He plans to do like the whole, it's 20 years until you can retire. You can go longer. Some people, like, they drag it out to like 25, 30 years. But I think after 20, he's like ready to take a break.
Definitely. How many years is he?
Right now he's, I want to say 12.
Okay.
So at this point, like, you're already halfway there. You might as well ride it out.
Totally.
And you get the retirement benefits, and he'll be 38 years old. So
yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'm just gonna like take it easy and stuff. And I told him, I'm like, you can't retire like forever at 38 years old.
Right.
You're gonna need to like keep it going a little bit.
Totally.
You can find you a little part-time job. You can make sure you like it. You don't have to work like a second, 40-hour a week soul crushing job. You can't sit at home all day at 38 years old.
Definitely not.
And he was like, but maybe for a little bit, can I take a break?
That's funny.
And I was like, we'll see. We'll figure it out. I was like, maybe I'll go to work every day and you can stay home, because that would be fun.
Yeah, that would be different.
He was like, yeah, I can handle it. But then I realized, like, by the time he does that, our kids are going to be in high school.
Oh, totally.
He's like, yeah, I could totally do that. And I was like, it's not the same.
No, definitely not.
So I was like, yeah, that'd be really cool. We could like get a taste of what I've been doing for, at that point, 15, 18 years.
But not babies versus teenagers don't.
Yeah. He was like, I can get them to school on time. I'm like, and then what do you do all day while they're at school? He's like, just whatever. And I'm like, well, when I come home, I need dinner to be ready.
Yeah.
I need my clothes folded. I need, like, I don't just sit around and do nothing all day. But the past couple weeks, I kind of have. Because I like just stopped working.
Yes.
I was working from home for about 3 years. I started.
Did you always work, or did you just start working 3 years ago?
I just started working again. I worked before Caroline was born. When we lived in Georgia, I worked at the school, like an elementary school. I was a teacher's aide, which is like nothing like I went to school for. I did not. But we lived in this little small town, and they just kind of took what I could get.
Yeah. What'd you go to school for?
It sounds so funny to say. It's called Food and Resource Economics.
Okay.
And I went to UF, and they're a big agricultural program. So I went through the College of Agriculture, and the FRE is basically like agribusiness marketing management type stuff. So instead of going through like the business school to get like, marketing a business, I just did it like with a focus on agriculture. I grew up on a peanut farm, which is such a weird thing to say out loud. So but my mom was a teacher. And so one of the guys AJ worked with, his wife, so those were like my friends. She was like, hey, at my son's school, they're looking for aides and stuff. And I was like, I've been doing that my whole life. I just haven't gotten paid for it. So I was like, I can make copies and cut out, the things they need for the activities and, help grade papers and help kids with their work and stuff. I was like, I've done that forever. So I worked with second graders, and it's such a funny age. And that was really fun. And let's see, I got pregnant with Caroline. So I worked for a little bit and then we moved. So when we got to Colorado, I knew I was going to stay home with her. So I just didn't get another job. So let's see, for about 4 or 5 years, I just stayed with her. We did whatever. And let's see, Riley was maybe like 6 months old. And I was like, I need to do something. Maybe I was getting a little restless and I felt like I wanted something kind of my own. I wanted to contribute a little bit, and I felt
totally get that.
I felt like I could handle it. That Caroline was older. Maybe Riley was a little bit younger than 6 months, but she was still in the baby stage where we were taking, 2 naps a day, and she didn't need a ton of interaction yet. So I started working online. And like when COVID was around, everybody could work from home and it was so easy. And I was like, I could totally do that. I could work for a little bit. And then the rest of my day, just do whatever me and the kids do. So I started working for a marketing company, and I handled like social media for their clients. So the things, that companies, businesses post on Facebook. I did a little like blog writing for some of them so they could, fill up the blog section of their website. And I didn't have any set hours. So I could like do my work for a little bit while the kids were taking a nap, do everything I needed to do, and then just work on it whenever I had time, as long as it was like done by the due date or whatever.
Yep.
So I did that. And then when we moved, I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to quit when we moved. As long as I took my laptop with me, I don't even think I told my boss until we got to Austin, and I was like, hey, I'm in a different time zone. We just moved, and I did that for, Riley's 3.5, so 3 years. And I just realized that I was spending time on my computer and telling her like, oh, I'll be there in a minute. I just need to finish this. So I was like, that's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
And my workload, like our clients, we've had a few clients like come and go during the time. So we were getting in sort of like a low point where I felt like if I left them, they wouldn't be like scrambling, like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? We have like 6 clients and now we have to hire a new social media manager. So I think maybe before Christmas, I told them, because it's such a weird, there was really no structure to my hours or like days off or anything. So before I would travel, I would tell them like, hey, I'm going to be out of town for a week. I will, whatever needs to be done during that week, let me know so I can get it done before I go. We can pre-schedule it to go out or something, so that you guys don't need me for a week. So that was weird. There was never like, oh, I need tomorrow off, and then, somebody else would fill in my responsibilities. Like I still have to do the things. So before Christmas, I was like, hey, I'm traveling, going to be out of town for 2 weeks. But also at the end of January, I need to kind of resign, but I'll go through the end of January so that we get through the Christmas break and we've got time to find somebody new.
Mm-hmm.
And if you need me to help, transition them into my position before I go.
Yeah.
So he was like, "Oh, thanks. That's great." And I was really worried that he was going to try to convince me to stay.
Uh-huh.
And I'm such like a people pleaser, maybe. So that's why I even gave him like a month. I gave him
Right.
30 days notice.
That's so funny that you say that because I feel like every single mom I've had on, every single one, like there hasn't been one that, like every single one at some point during their podcast says that they are a people pleaser, which is so crazy.
I don't know. For me, it definitely was before I was a mom. So
yes, same.
I'm an oldest child.
Yes, same.
I think that's where that comes in.
Yeah.
So like I didn't want them to be upset. AJ was like, just quit. And I was like, I can't just quit. Like,
yeah,
2 weeks notice is, at like that's normal. That's the accepted time.
right.
But also I don't think 2 weeks is enough. Like,
right.
I've been handling this department basically on my own for 3 years.
Yeah.
And like, then they're just going to find somebody off the street
right.
in 2 weeks and train them
right.
to do everything that I do. I was like,
right.
it can't be done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, I also don't want him to give me a bad reference.
Totally.
If when I need to put this on my resume, like this is going to be my most recent job.
Yeah.
I don't want him to say like, oh, she just quit one day.
Yeah, definitely not.
But luckily he was like, that's totally fine. You're doing what's best for your family. I understand. So they found somebody and we like virtually met, which is such a weird thing to say, and kind of got her into the groove like really quickly. Like for me, this was my first social media management job ever. I like took some extra classes online, got some certifications, and this was my first job, so he like took a chance on me. But this girl, she was like, "Oh, at my last job, we had this software and we did this and we did this."
Oh, cool.
So my boss was like, "I think she's good to go. Like, if you want to finish out January, you can, or we can just let her take over." And I was like, "No, she's good. Bye." I was just worried that you guys needed more time. If you don't, that's fine with me.
Yeah, that's great.
I was like, okay, see ya.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
I'm
so
like,
funny.
the day after my last day, I finished on a Friday because I did tell him, I was like, I'll finish out the week. Like, I don't want to leave you in the middle of the week. So Friday, had my last meeting with like my favorite clients. I did want to say goodbye to them. We meet with them every Friday, like virtually. So I was like, oh, I'll say goodbye on Friday. Saturday morning, I'm like uninstalling the apps on my phone, logging out of the company Facebook.
That's so funny.
It's like, he's like, did you log out of your email or something? Because my iPad would be like dinging every time I got an email. He's like, make sure you log out on your iPad too.
That's so funny.
I was like, bye.
Yeah, you were ready. So what does the future hold now that you're done with that and you're moving to Seattle and all of when do you guys move?
We're not exactly sure.
Okay.
Military life. I think his report date is like mid-September.
Okay, so you have some time.
So, but he's allowed to get there a little bit early. So I'm gonna figure out like when school starts, when we need to be there. So, because Caroline's gonna be going into the second grade.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
So at least we'll get to finish out the school year for her here, and then go over the summer. We haven't told her yet.
Yeah.
I'm really nervous about that because that's a really big change.
Totally.
Coming from Colorado, she was younger, so maybe it was a little bit easier. But also like she understood less. So at some points she would be like, you know, I want to go see Blaze. My best friend, that's one of her children. That's her middle kid. So they're about the same age. And she was like, I want to go see Blaze. And I'm like, I don't really know how to explain that we're not in the same place right now.
Yeah.
She always called Colorado. We were trying to tell her, we'd get out a map and we'd show her, Colorado's up here, but now we live down here in Texas. And she knows Florida. She's like, and then Graham lives in Florida. And she would call Colorado. She would say Ravocado. I want to go back to Ravocado.
Oh.
And now she says it right, and that makes me sad. And obviously, like, Riley has no idea. She was 1 when we moved, or turning 1. She had her first birthday here in Texas. So, but this time I think she might understand. I don't know.
Yeah.
But since Caroline's been in school, she's got to go pre-K, kinder, and now first grade here in Texas. So I think she's going to understand that, like, next school year, she's not going to be at the same school. She's not going to see the same kids. So
totally.
I'm like, I have anxiety about that already.
Yeah, I could see that.
So, and like, I asked my mom about everything, especially like school stuff. She taught for like 20 years, and she did second grade for a long time. So I ask her, when Caroline does stuff at school, or there's certain like testing or something, anything about school, I'm like, is she doing the right thing at school? So I asked my mom, like, when should I tell her that we're moving? Like, I don't know. As a teacher, like, would you want her to be able to say goodbye to the kids at school, or should we just like sneak out over the summer? So I guess we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I guess we'll have to. So that's kind of sort of the story of our life is like, we will figure it out because we have to. So
yes, yeah, no, totally. And I think that's a good like perspective to leave people with too. Like, people in the military, like, this is what they do. Like, this is their life, and like, it's not normal for obviously everybody else, but like, this is what you guys are like kind of sacrificing, and be appreciative.
Yeah. I know. Obviously people outside the military community, like, they kind of look in with a little bit of maybe like awe sometimes. When you're amongst other military people all the time, we like look over it. So, but like, we go somewhere, and especially when we first moved to Austin, there's not a huge military community.
Yeah.
People like seeing AJ in uniform, like at the grocery store, it was like, oh, thank you. And he's like, I'm just here for bread. Or like, especially when people say that to me, like, oh, thank you guys. I'm like, I get really, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, but it's true. I mean, you're used to it, but
you're welcome. Like,
yeah, but you should. You are welcome, because you guys sacrifice a lot,
Like, I'm just following AJ around. I don't really know what else I'd be doing, I guess.
Yeah, totally. So what does the future hold then, you think? You just quit your job, you're moving to Seattle. So what does the future look like to you?
Oh gosh. With the move, I guess I don't even know. With quitting, I just wanted like more time to hang out with Riley. So already last week, we went to the library twice.
Nice.
And we used to do that, but then I'd be like, oh, I've got a meeting during story time or whatever. So I just wanted more time to be able to like do that with her, and not be like, hey, I need to finish my work. Go sit down. That. Like, go watch TV.
Yeah.
Well, now we're like doing stuff. We're going to the library. I get weirdly like into things, sort of like hyper focus. And in the beginning of the year, I found this like decluttering program. And it was like 30 days of going through your whole house room by room and decluttering things so that you like, it would like ease your anxiety kind of.
Okay.
Because like, you know, when things are like so cluttered and there's stuff everywhere, like you can just get like overwhelmed.
Totally.
And I do when I think about it. So then I have to like not think about it and kind of like zone out of the mess.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I have this program. I'm going to go room by room, 30 days. We're going to be decluttered. I like went through my closet one day and I was like, oh, haven't worn that in 6 months. Haven't worn that in a year and a half. I was like, I think I've only worn this dress one time since I purchased it. It's going. So I was like manically throwing out all my clothes.
Yes, good for you.
What else? I've been putting off the kids' rooms because then I've got to go through the kids like, oh, this doesn't fit anymore. If it's Riley's and it doesn't fit, it goes to like donation unless it's really sentimental. If it's Caroline's and it doesn't fit, it goes into a space bag in the attic.
Okay.
So then in 2 years, when Riley needs it, we go get it from the attic.
Totally.
Before Riley gets any new clothes, we check the attic.
Yeah.
So, and I almost went to like throw out a pair of snow boots. I was like, I haven't worn these. They're really not that comfortable. I went to donate them. And then AJ was like, we're moving to Seattle. So I was like, I'm going to put those back in the attic. I'm going to need them apparently.
Yeah.
So I've just been like doing the things that I've been putting off. So glad I've kept my really big, heavy snow boots that I bought when we lived in Colorado. They've been in the attic the whole time. So I was like, well, I'm going to need those. But then I had sort of like a secondary that were less bulky and a little bit cuter. But after living here the whole time, I was like, well, I guess I haven't really worn them.
Yeah.
Don't know if I'm going to need them.
Yeah.
And I almost donated. I'm so glad. And also all of our stuff from Colorado, like our ski pants and stuff, they've been in the attic. So, and that's why sometimes decluttering is so hard for me. I was like, oh, we haven't used it here, but who knows? Like if we'll ever need it again, like I need ski pants again, you know?
Right. Exactly.
You're like, you know, what if I don't even know. I have a whole box of stuff in the attic of mine because I don't want to throw it out. I'm sort of like a hoarder, but then I realize I might have to be.
Yeah, because you don't know where you're going to be for sure. Yeah, exactly. Definitely. Yeah.
And I've gotten like really into reading. I was a book kid.
Yeah.
Like my mom tried to get us into Harry Potter like in middle school, and that didn't really take, but I liked to read. I was a kid that read for fun.
Yeah.
And as a mom, obviously that kind of got pushed down to the bottom of the list. And I think until this past Christmas or this past summer, I owned one book.
Wow.
I owned 2 copies of the same book. And I was like, I want to read again. So I bought a paperback on Amazon over the summer to take with us on our trip to Florida. And we got home and I bought a Kindle. I find the hobbies and then I like hyperfixate on them for a little while. So I bought a Kindle. It was like a refurbished Kindle on Amazon. Yeah. And I told AJ, I was like, I'm buying a Kindle. So I can read. I want to read more. Because I'd gotten into audiobooks so that I could listen to them while I was doing stuff.
Totally. Yep. That's where I'm at right now.
Who can sit down? So I had like a subscription to this audiobook app that I still use and love. So, and I kind of sold it to AJ too because they have the Halo video game books.
Okay.
And he loves them. He's really into like
Okay.
gaming. And he won't say, like, he's not like, I'm not a reader, but he'll listen to these audiobooks.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, you know, it's $10 a month, but check out all the books they have. And if you want to read them, obviously log in and read them, dude.
Yeah.
So he's gone through all of them.
Nice.
In this whole series, there's like 7 or 8 of these books. So while he's like driving to work or driving around, he listens to audiobooks.
That's awesome.
But I was like, I want to read on a page.
Yeah.
I want to
I
hold
think
a book.
reading is so much more like meditative, right? Because like I read a lot before I had her, and then I had her, and you can't like really read. But she does contact naps. So yesterday, like I was like, I'm gonna have my book in my hand, so when she finally falls asleep, I can just read. And I did, and it's like it makes such a difference, I think, because it's like so much more like you're so in it. Like listening is great, and I love to do that too. I do both, but reading is just, I don't know, so much more like meditative.
Yeah, it's different. So and that's why I told AJ, I was like, I bought a Kindle so I could read. And he was like, well, don't you have the app? And I was like, I want the words. I want to see words.
Totally. Yes.
So he was like, whatever floats your boat. So it's like that. And at this point, like I'm still working. So, and anything that I was making was like extra. So I was like, I bought myself a Kindle, and like I could say like I bought it for myself. So
yeah,
I was like, I bought myself a Kindle, and you can get like, you know, Kindle Unlimited or other subscriptions. And I didn't want to pay for another subscription because I still wanted to keep the audiobook one. So I got like virtual library cards.
Yes.
And some of them, like you have to live there to get a library card. Some of them are free. And I didn't qualify to get one for Austin because we don't have an Austin address.
Right.
Technically. So I would have had to pay for it. But I figured out in like these Kindle Facebook groups or whatever, certain places, they don't care where your address is, and they'll give you a free library card. So I have a free library card in like Broward County, Florida. And the military, like they have a DOD library, like library system for like the libraries on the bases. So I got one of those.
That's awesome.
So I got these 2 virtual library cards, and there's an app. And if you read, like do the Libby app, and you put in your library cards, and you can borrow Kindle books.
Yep.
So, and some of them will say, you know, there's a 3-week wait for this book. So I've got like a whole list of things, you know, in my to be read section, and then it'll tell me like, oh, this one's ready to borrow, and it sends it to my Kindle. So
that's awesome.
I feel, I don't know, like I have a library card. Like I'm a real grown adult person.
That's funny that you say that. I just got one this week. I literally just got one.
I got one yesterday too.
When was it? Wednesday, right? Something like that. We were supposed to go to music class, and then I got stuck on the highway. So I was like, I'm going to the library. But yeah, they gave me a whole list of apps that they work with to use my library card on. So yeah, definitely.
So I even got, I'm such like, it's such a first world problem kind of thing. I don't know if you can see it. There's like a holder that's like attached to the side of my bed.
That's awesome. Okay, that's so funny.
Oh, it's the other way.
God. Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes, I can see it.
It holds, I saw it on TikTok, and it looks like a phone holder. It's like a gooseneck thing. It almost looks like what you would like record a TikTok on or something.
Yeah.
But it holds a tablet. It holds my Kindle, so that while I'm laying sideways in bed, I can like crane it over, and it will hold my Kindle for me. And I got there's a little clippy thing that I can put on the Kindle, and it will turn the page. It has a clicker remote.
What?
I got it for my birthday. When I turned 31, I was like, I'm going to be a lazy reader so that I could be under the covers in bed with my Kindle propped up in front of me and click the remote under the covers so I don't have to reach out.
What a time to be alive,
I
for real.
know. My husband was like, you're a mess. He's like, do you want like a durable water bottle also? Like, what are you doing?
I love that.
Like, he's like, what in the world is that for? Because it's from Amazon, so I'm like opening up. I was like, oh, it's my Kindle holder. I was like, what do you need that for? I'm like, so when I'm laying in bed, I don't have to hold my Kindle because I got like a pop socket on the back of my Kindle.
Yes.
So that I can like hold it up.
Yeah.
But I would be like propped on the side. I was like, and then my arms are getting tired.
Totally.
He's
someone suggested the pop socket to me. I can't do a Kindle. Like I can't read like that. I don't know why. I wish I could. But someone suggested that to me while I was breastfeeding. But this is even better. And if you have the clicker, then you can just literally be like and click in the middle of the night. You don't even have to worry about it.
Because that was like the only thing is you're still having to like touch and turn the page. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, please send me those two products because I would really like to, especially link them for the listeners because I know I have a lot of readers that listen.
I thought on like if you get on TikTok a lot, my algorithm is like the book talk now.
I love that.
I've gotten a lot of book recommendations.
Nice.
I saw somebody that do that, and they were like, "I'm even extra pathetic," and now I have a clicker remote.
I love it.
Like these are my Saturday night plans, and it's this girl in the Kindle, and she's like, I don't even have to get out of my covers. Well, I was like, yeah, I'll be buying one of those.
Totally.
And I was like, I'm old and I want to lay in bed and read. This is what I want to do with my time.
I feel that.
It's
definitely
way more productive. And I have the Kindle app on my phone, so I could read the book on my phone, but then you get, your Instagram notification pops up while you're reading, and then now you're like 2 hours deep on Instagram.
Yep.
So I like the Kindle, and it's easier on my eyes. Like
yes,
it's not bright,
right,
and it doesn't glare.
Yep.
So I felt a little better about doing that instead
definitely
of like reading on my phone, like
totally
right before you fall asleep, and then I'm like,
yes,
my eyes won't stop.
Absolutely.
And I'm like pathetic when I sleep anyways. I have like a mask so that I won't keep opening my eyes and like thinking about all
around, get distracted. You're a distracted sleeper.
Well, maybe it's just like part of anxiety, but I can't turn my brain off. I'm like thinking about all the other things that need to happen that I should have done today and that I need to do tomorrow.
I think that's a woman thing, right? Especially after you have kids, like your brain changes a little bit, and that's exactly what happens. Because I had no problem sleeping before her, and now I'm like awake.
I didn't think I did either, and I'm telling my mom this. Maybe I just had Caroline, so probably several years ago, and I was like, I can't turn my brain off, and I'm not getting enough sleep. And she was like, "Yeah, you're a mom, and you're a woman and a mother."
Yeah.
And I was like, this can't be normal, right? He's like, yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah.
And then I was diagnosed with anxiety. So I was like, hey, Mom, have you ever talked to someone about the fact that you can't turn your brain off?
Yeah.
Because I did, and apparently that's not normal.
Yeah. Well, I think it is kind of normal. But yeah, I also have anxiety. I had anxiety before her, but it definitely got worse after her. It's getting a little better now. I see a psychologist and everything, so that helps. But yeah. I think most women can't turn their brains off though.
I never thought like I had anxiety, but maybe now, like knowing and looking back, maybe I did a little bit.
But not the same.
But definitely not the same as
totally
like
same
worrying about like, is my baby getting enough milk?
Totally
Like,
totally or like is she slept like 10 minutes longer than she normally does, is she breathing, like
right,
yeah,
is she alive?
totally yeah, definitely.
So, and I guess everyone prepares you sort of for maybe like the baby blues. Tell you about in the hospital, like this might happen, and
Yep.
it's because your hormones are fluctuating and it's okay. But if it's like gets worse, let's talk about it. We just want to make sure everything's normal. So I think in the beginning, I just kind of like chalked it up to that.
Yeah.
And then, if Caroline was 4 months old and AJ left, they went to Europe. So it wasn't just like down the street or something for training. Yeah. Like they were across the world for 9 months, and I had this 4-month-old baby. So I thought maybe like it's normal in my situation, me being alone with this other human, and
right,
I have to keep her alive. So I didn't like even go see anybody until she was maybe like a year old, almost a year old.
Really?
And one of my best friend that I met, she was like really open about like her having, little postpartum.
Yep.
But it was like more than that. She was like, I'm just like this, I guess. And she was like, girl, I take my meds every day. And so I was like, maybe I should look into that.
Yeah.
Because she was like, it changed my world. Like, she's like, I'm so much better. I can focus on my kids and, the rest of my life. So I was like, maybe I'll check into that. Because until like somebody talks to you about it, like, I guess maybe you never think like,
yes,
should I talk to someone? Do I need medication? So that might have been it was only the second time that I left Caroline with anybody. It was her. And I was like, hey, I got an appointment. Can I leave Caroline with you while I go talk to somebody? So let's see, they got me in, and I talked in, I guess maybe this is for everyone, but the military insurance, I had to talk to my primary care doctor first. So I chatted with her, and she was like, you know what? Let me call down to psychology. If somebody can talk to you right now, do you have time? And I was like, yeah. Yeah. Because I figured this is going to take forever. I'm going to have to go talk to my primary care, and then I'm going to have to get an appointment with somebody else. But at least I wanted to like get started. So when she said like somebody could talk to me like right then, I was like, oh, I'm so glad I did this. So she like walked me down the hall, or across the hospital or whatever. And I talked to somebody right then, and they were like, let's get you started on medication. Yeah. And, come back and see me in a little while and see, how it's going and stuff. But like I left that day with a prescription and, went downstairs to the pharmacy in the hospital, picked it up, and like getting it done like right then, and not having like this drawn out process. I think that like that made a huge difference too. Yeah. That I could like do something about it. Yes. And I didn't have to keep putting it off because I've been putting it off for a year.
Yes. And I think that that's like really, it's important to talk about the whole thing, the whole experience. First of all, even reaching out for help, getting medicine. But also like, I know that it's a little like not taboo, but like people are like medication is too readily available, and they just kind of like give it to you and like whatever. But like when you're a mom, like to get yourself to that first appointment in general takes everything, right? Because you're taking time away from your kid, and right, and you're you know, you might have to leave them with somebody else, and you have to like it's a lot, and you feel like you're inconveniencing like so many people. And so like to be able to just like get in there and get that help right away is so important.
Yeah, because I think, I mean, maybe I still would have done it, but if I had to make another appointment to
Right.
go talk to the psychiatrist and then get medication, and then, you know, it takes, they're like, oh, take it for 2 weeks and see how it goes and then come back and talk to me. It just to like have the drawn out process.
Yeah.
Like maybe, I don't know, maybe it would have been a different experience.
Totally.
But like telling somebody like what I was going through and what I was feeling, and them taking it seriously enough to be like, oh, well, let's get you down right now. Like,
yeah.
If they've got an opening, there's no need to call and make another appointment. Like, we'll just walk over there. So I was like, okay, like, I definitely should have done this sooner.
Yeah.
If what I was experiencing is like, I mean, not that I was about to like jump off the ledge, but
right. But still,
for them to be like, oh, we need to take care of this right now.
Which is great.
I was like, oh, like maybe I should have definitely took care of this sooner. Like if they're, you know, if they're taking it seriously enough, I should have been taking it seriously. So
yeah. And then after medication, what was that experience like for you?
It was like a different world. It
Mm-hmm.
was, and I don't know, maybe it was like a tiny bit a placebo effect that I was like finally doing something about it. That part just like took that part of the weight off my shoulders. But definitely, I was on Zoloft.
Okay.
We started out pretty low, I think. But it was a different world. And
yeah.
The first time I started it, they told me like take it at night because it makes a lot of people sleepy.
Okay.
So I was getting restful sleep at night, and maybe that alone was
totally
like half the battle.
Yeah.
But then I could turn my brain off a little easier. Yeah. I felt like I was enjoying my time with her more. Because I'm like by myself with her 24 hours a day.
Yep.
And when she would cry, like if she didn't want to take a nap or, you know, waking up in the middle of the night and not going back down so easily.
Yep.
I would like, my body would like, I would be like tingly and like almost be like mad.
Yeah.
That she wouldn't sleep or was crying and I couldn't figure out why. But then I noted like it was less like that after medication. Like I could hear her cry and it wouldn't feel like nails on a chalkboard.
Okay.
So, and like my poor neighbors, because we're living on post at the time and we're in like a townhouse kind of situation. So some like half of our house connected to their house, and that her room was on that side. So like I know they can hear her crying.
Yeah.
Sometimes I could hear one of their kids crying. So
right.
I know they can hear us. And for me to just like be calm.
Right.
In her crying.
I'm sure it made a difference for her too, because now she has a mom that's like calm.
Like, for me to not be like, oh my God, stop. Like, how do I make it stop?
Right.
I was in like actively doing something to help her.
Right.
And maybe she could like feel my energy better.
Totally. Yeah.
Like, because when she was freaking out, I was freaking out.
Yeah.
So both of us can be freaking out at the same time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It was, and I put it off so long. I didn't know if I could take medication while I was breastfeeding. And my friend was like, "You absolutely can."
Yeah. Yeah. So definitely.
Like, oh, okay. I'll go.
Yeah.
I'll get an appointment. I'll call him right now.
Yeah.
So I stayed. I was on Zoloft. for 6 years, 6.5 years, all through my second pregnancy. Because I asked, when we thought we might want to have a second.
Yeah.
I was at like a check-in with I think by then it was probably like a nurse practitioner or something that was just like making sure I didn't need a new dose or something. And I was like, by the way, can I take this while I'm pregnant? If we start trying, if I don't know I'm pregnant, is it okay to be taking this? And she was like, yeah, you take it all the way through pregnancy. Yeah. No big deal.
And you did, right?
Yep.
Yep. And she has 2 healthy girls, people. So if you're on it or you're hesitant,
they did say like 1 in a million chances that sometimes, they have stuff they just want to keep an extra eye on.
Yeah.
And I think it was something to do with her heart. And I had a family history of heart stuff. My dad had one of his valves replaced right when I got pregnant with her. And so like my mom is like prepping me and my sister, like, hey, your dad's going to have open heart surgery. It's no big deal. It's this thing he's had his whole life. And now they just want to fix it like before they don't want to do open heart surgery when he's like 70.
Totally.
So they want to fix it now. And I was like, hey, we have a genetic heart thing and none of you guys thought to tell us until now.
Right.
So when I told my doctors that, because you go in and, I'm pregnant and they get all your family history. So I was like, well, now I know my dad has this heart thing. And they were like, okay, since you do have family history, and Zoloft has this like 1 in a bazillion chances, they just wanted to do extra imaging on her heart.
Right.
Like in utero, which was kind of cool because then we went in and got more ultrasounds than we normally would have.
Yeah.
So like extra detailed, like, and we found out, she was a girl a little bit sooner. So, but she's here.
Yeah. Super healthy.
Perfectly healthy. She's developmentally appropriate, like
totally
being a menace right now. I can hear them downstairs. AJ's got him downstairs. Because AJ got like I've messed with him and I say he got aggressive with our anesthesiologist, but he really didn't. But in like the military hospital setting, the only people that I saw for like prenatal and like delivery and stuff, everybody was midwives.
Okay.
Really nice. And the only like MD that I ever saw was that anesthesiologist.
Okay.
So AJ was like, man, he was such a dick. And I was like, no, he did totally fine. I loved him.
Yeah.
Because like first time poked it in, worked immediately, got to take a nap. But AJ said he was like being mean to me. And I was like, I didn't notice.
My anesthesiologist was such an angel because then I couldn't stop shaking. And the poor guy had to get the needle in with me literally laughing. I was just like shaking so hard. I was like, I'm so sorry. And they're like, stay still. I'm like, I can't stop laughing. My nurse is like, hold your breath. I was trying to hold my breath. I couldn't even hold my breath. I was like, literally like, when you're a kid and you get the giggles, I was like, like trying to hold my breath. It was so bad. It was so bad.
But that's the only thing was like him trying to tell me to be still or something. And AJ was like, God, he was such a dick. I was like, he was about to poke me. I needed to be still, dude.
Right. You're like, that was his job.
Sitting there, and AJ's in front of me and I'm like holding his arms, to be still, like rounded out my back and all that. And I was like, maybe it's people pleasing, but I could like feel a contraction coming on. So I was like, hey, just so you know, I feel this contraction. Like if I'm going to move, I don't want to move, but I'm letting you know it might be out of my control.
Right.
And like just warning you. And the guy was like, I can't even remember what he said. Maybe just like, you know, be still, or I was like, you know, like, do we need to wait till it passes? Because
Right.
also this is my first time. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Tell me what to do. But,
Right.
and he was like, no, just be still. Like, maybe he might have said, like, he had another patient to get to after me. So he was like, we really don't wait. Just be still.
Right.
And I can't even remember if AJ said anything to the guy while he was there, but maybe he said like, "Can we just wait?" or something. And the guy was like, "No, we gotta go." So I was like, "That's fine with me. Like,
Right.
poke me, but like, do whatever you gotta do."
Yeah.
So when he left, the guy was like, "Man, doctors are assholes" or something, and I was like, "No, he did fine."
Yeah, he did great. He did what he had to do.
He was like, "Oh, whatever," you know.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have been nicer about it.
Yeah.
and and like when I was pushing or something, and you have to like almost hold your breath and like count to 10, and I got to the part where like I couldn't make it to 10, like I needed to like like take a breath, and I was like, I can't breathe, guys. And you know, and the midwives, they're just like, everything they're saying is to be motivational. Like,
Right.
I know they're not being mean, but
Right.
they're like, you know, you could do it, like just
Yeah.
push harder, hold your
Yeah.
breath. And AJ was like, she can't breathe, guys.
Oh, he seems so protective.
He was. And he was probably maybe a little, like, I'm sure it was traumatizing
Totally.
for him. It's like to hear me be like, I can't breathe.
I know.
And the midwives are like, tough it out.
Nick had like I always like I mean he knows it, like he'll say like I was such a champ, but I have endometriosis, so like my labor and delivery was like my nurse kept coming in and she's like, your contractions are really strong, like, you're not feeling anything. I'm like, no, I am, but it's like
Yeah.
not
Oh
like a
well.
period or anything. And so like the whole time, like he's like it was just chill, like he was just like hanging out. And then it
Yeah.
wasn't until like literally I needed the epidural that I started like hurting, but like I don't know, the doctor must have been like right there because he was in there within like maybe 5 minutes. Like 5 minutes is a long time because like I like had felt it and I like all of a sudden was like, I can't do this,
Yeah.
and called the nurse, and the nurse was like, I'll get your epidural right away. And my mom was like massaging my back, and the doctor came in before I even like knew it. So I don't
Nice.
know. We got lucky. Yeah, but so and then after the epidural, like then it's like
Right. It was cake.
no big deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The second when we went in with Riley, and maybe like I knew too much,
uh-huh.
or maybe it was good that I knew, but I'm in there and we're getting set up in the hospital room, and they gave me a little ball, you know, and I'm just like bouncing on my ball, and found something to watch on TV, and I'm just like going through it, like I know what the contractions feel like, kind of. And after a while, AJ was like, you know, do you want to press the button? You want to call for the epidural? And I was like, oh, you know, like this is not bad. Like I think we can wait a
Yeah.
little bit. And then he would see me kind of like, ugh, like maybe it was getting a little more intense. He was like, you want me to press the button? I was like, you know, it's okay. Like I can wait. And finally I got to the point where I was like, let's press the button. And so the nurse came in and I was like, I think I'm ready for the epidural. So she's like, okay, you know, he's like 2 rooms away, so he can actually be here in a minute. But let's check you real quick, you know, before he comes in. So they go to check, see where I'm at, and the nurse was like, how do you feel about a natural delivery?
No.
And I was like, no, thank you. Like, I guess I thought she was like checking, like before he came
Right.
in, you know, you want to keep going without it. And I was like,
Right.
no, thank you. And she was like, well, you're about to have one.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I was like, no, I can't. um, I was like, no, thank you.
That's wild.
And she was like, no, for real. Like he, even if he could make it here, he can't give you an epidural.
So you delivered Riley naturally?
I delivered her
Like by
within
accident?
within 10 minutes of the nurse saying that to me.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
And I at a certain, I wasn't even pushing on purpose at a certain point.
Right, like it just your body was telling you to, basically.
Well, I guess, yeah, because they get to the point where you're like, if you feel like you might have to poop, like if your body's pushing, let us know. And I knew what that felt like. I felt it with Caroline, and I kind of knew. So, like they're sitting me up to maybe like get ready for the epidural, and a different nurse came and was like, "Oh, let's check her before he comes in." So then we like laid back down, and then as I'm laying down, I was like, just to let you guys know, I just felt that poopy feeling.
Oh my gosh.
And they were like, okay, happens. And that's when they were like, you're about to have med-free delivery. And I was like, I don't want that.
Yeah.
They were like, they said even if he could make it here, like you can't, like you would be sitting up for the epidural and she would fall out.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
And I guess because I didn't plan it and I didn't like want it, I was like, no, guys. I said, I cannot do this. And one of the nurses was like, you really don't have a choice.
And so what was it like? Like, was it like really, really painful then?
Maybe at that point, like, just pure adrenaline had kicked
in.
Yeah. And, it definitely hurt. But,
yes.
How they say, like, as soon as it's over, you forget that pain.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was exactly like that. Like, she's coming out and, I could feel, and without the epidural, you could feel everything. So I could feel like, like the ring of fire or whatever they say, like when she was crowning. And then as soon as she came out, I was like, oh, like it was that quick. Like it felt almost like immediately better.
Wow. That's crazy.
So like with Caroline, and I had the epidural and I was like really concentrating on like pushing, and I had to concentrate on it because I couldn't feel what I was doing. And they put her on my chest and I was like, oh, hi baby, like I so happy about it. And then when Riley came out, I was like, oh, thank God that's over. And I was like, oh, so hey, nice to meet you.
That's so funny. All right, we're going almost 2 hours, so I feel like this is a good place to end. I know, right? Look at us. But yes, thank you so much for being so open with us and for being on today. This is such a good episode. I'm so excited to put this one out.
It was so fun. I felt like we were just chatting.
Yeah, I know. It was a really good time. And thank you everybody for listening today. I hope you love Victoria's stories and kind of taking us through everything she took us through. It's like I said, this has been such a great episode. It was a wild ride. So thank you so much. Like and subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to it, and comment to bump up our ratings. And thank you so much.
Bye.